right. Got New Jersey. Awesome. Okay, we'll give it just another minute, but welcome everyone who's joining us. You are here for the UNC Asheville virtual Q&A on housing and dining. We have enabled the closed captioning, so if you'd like some subtitles there, then you can click the CC at the bottom of your screen, make it a little bit more accessible for y'all. If you'd like, go ahead and put in the Q&A what your name is and where you're from. We'd like to get a sense of who's joining us. We are super excited to speak with y'all tonight. So when y'all registered for this event, you had the opportunity to enter some questions that you may have that you wanted us to address. So we're going to start with kind of an overall big picture view of housing at UNC Asheville, and then we'll make sure that we get to those questions that y'all have. If you think of additional questions that you are not able to include on your registration, you are welcome to put those in the Q&A as well. Vali here will be answering our questions, and I'll be keeping an eye on that Q&A, make sure that we're giving you all the information that you need. We are going to try to keep this to an hour, just to be respectful of everyone's time. If it goes a little bit over, if you need to leave, you're always welcome, of course, to reach back out to us if you have additional questions that were not answered. All right. Very cool. Lots of in-state students, got some Texas, New Jersey as well. Love it. Okay. Looks like our incoming participants have kind of leveled off, so we are going to jump right in. It is 7:04. Welcome everyone. UNC Asheville admissions virtual Q&A for housing and dining. We got a Cubs fan. That's going to make Nate very happy. Very cool. And I also want to let people know that UNC Asheville's basketball team is playing a game tonight. So Nate here behind the UNC Asheville admissions account is going to keep an eye on that score for us and keep us updated on how they're doing. But we are going to go ahead and jump in. So my name is Lindsay Prather. Realizing I hadn't introduced myself, I work in admissions at UNC Asheville. I am also a very proud alumna, class of 2010. I studied sociology and got my teaching license. Huge fan of UNCA, so much so that I now work for them. And so I am here with Vali Barnwell from our housing office at UNC Asheville. I have known Vali since I was a student. He is a pillar of the UNC Asheville community. So we're super happy to have him here joining us to talk to you all a little bit about what housing and dining looks like at UNC Asheville and answer those questions that you've got. So as I said, when you registered, you had the opportunity to ask us questions ahead of time of what you wanted us to address tonight. We did collect all of those, and we're going to do our best to touch on all of those topics. But you are, of course, welcome to ask additional questions in that Q&A as well, and we'll do our best to get to those. So with that, we are going to go ahead and jump in. Hey, Vali.
Good evening. Hey, Lindsay. And welcome, everyone. It's so good to be with you all virtually. As Lindsay said, my name is Vali. I am the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. And one of my responsibilities is housing and residence life. And so that's what we're here to talk about tonight. The housing application for incoming students opened earlier this week. And so that's exciting. And some of you I know have already started that process. Some of you will have questions about that process tonight. And so we'll jump into those. So one of the things at UNC Asheville that we believe very strongly in across the university, across student affairs, and in housing and residence life is the concept of choice and allowing students to choose from the very beginning. So in many cases at colleges and universities, you're assigned a residence hall, you're assigned a roommate, you're assigned suite mates, and you kind of are off and running with what you've been given. We allow first-year students, incoming students, to self-select. So students will apply for housing, and that's what you're doing now. That's what you can do now. And then later this summer, in June, you will be able to actually select the housing that you want, roommates that you want, suite mates you want. You'll have full control to do that. And we will help be there to help along the way and help the process. But that's the first point I wanted to make tonight, is that you get to select, that you will be selecting your housing. Certainly if you get to the end and you haven't selected, then we will select for you, but that's not going to happen with all you folks. You folks are already here at one of the first Q&As, so you're ready to go. All of our residence halls are unique. They all have their own personality. And so there's something for everyone. If you're a student who's looking for kind of a more social residence hall where there's a lot of action, a lot of activity, things happening all the time, close to the student center, close to the main core of campus, we have residence halls, Mills Hall and Founders Hall kind of fit that need. If you're looking for a residence halls that maybe are a little bit quieter, a little bit further removed from the main part of campus, in a beautiful wooded setting near the botanical gardens, Westridge and Southridge, we call those the ridges. That may be a spot that you're very interested in. We also have Governor's Hall, Ponder Hall for incoming students to live in. Those are primarily upper class residence halls, but Governor's Hall and Ponder are residence halls that first year students can live in. One of the changes we began to make a few years ago during the pandemic were more single rooms. We converted a lot of double rooms on campus to single rooms. Now I say that it's not that if everybody, all 1,600 of our students who live on campus wanted a single room, we don't have that many single rooms, but we do have more single rooms, and we have single rooms now in every residence hall, which 4 or 5 years ago we couldn't say. But with bringing Westridge and Southridge online with single rooms now, we have single rooms in every residence hall. So it is possible that when you select, that you may be able to find a single room in any residence hall. It's not a guarantee, but that is something that's available. All of the residence hall rooms, one of the questions I got last week from a family that was on campus, just kind of checking out the university, they were kind of surprised at all the things that come in the residence hall room. So in addition to the standard furniture that most schools provide, which is a bed, an extra long twin bed, a desk chair, a dresser, closet space, all of that traditional things, we also offer a micro fridge in every student room. So that's a combination of microwave and refrigerator. A lot of schools rent those to students, or they're available if you request them, that type of thing. We just go ahead and put them in every room. So every room, no matter which residence hall you live in, you're already going to have that in your room. So that's one less thing that you have to bring to your residence hall. So the amenities are very similar no matter where you live, as far as kitchens in every residence hall, laundry rooms or multiple laundry rooms in every residence hall, study rooms, TV rooms, business centers with computers and printers in every residence hall. So no matter where you live, the amenities are the same. What's different is just like, as I mentioned earlier, kind of the personality of the residence halls. So again, keep in mind, you will be selecting. We offer tours of the residence halls, either virtually or if you come on campus at some point and want to see a residence hall, our office is happy to do that. If you let us know you're coming, we will certainly do that. Or maybe even if you just stop in, we will try to accommodate that. But I'm also available if you know that you're definitely wanting to live in Founders Hall and you want to see what the views from the 7th floor of Founders Hall are. They don't quite look as good as the views behind Lindsay and I, but it's pretty close. You can see downtown Asheville this time of the year. You can see the Grove Park Inn from the 7th floor of Founders. So it's pretty cool. So if you wanted to actually see that, I'm happy to do a virtual kind of Google Meet or Zoom or FaceTime with you and kind of show you what that would look like. So that's something, again, we started during the pandemic, and as bad as it was during the pandemic, we did learn some things that we've continued to use. So that's kind of the quick overview. One of the things I love every time we do this is the questions that you all ask will make me think of something else. And so I'll be happy to add to that. I have been here. I did not graduate from UNC Asheville. I graduated from another school in Western North Carolina, which we won't talk about. but I have been here for 24 years. And so I have come to love UNC Asheville. Obviously, it is a very special place. I wholeheartedly believe in what we do and the impact we're able to make with students and on students. And so that's why I'm still here many years later. And so I'm happy to answer any housing questions you have. If you have other questions about dining or transportation or things like that, I will do my best to tackle those as well.
Thanks so much, Bali. All right, that's a great start. So could we dig in a little bit more to what the housing application process looks like for students, including when they start that process? Does that mean that they're committing to UNC Asheville? That's one of the first questions that we got here.
So yes, great. So the housing application is available in the student's housing portal, which is part of the in your OnePort account. So students, when you're admitted to UNC Asheville, as you go through that process, you're given a username and password to go in to your OnePort account. And once you go into that OnePort account, there's something called the housing portal, which sounds very magical. I guess it could be, but you go into that housing portal, and there you'll see some tabs, and one of those tabs is apply for housing. And so you will go to that, and it'll take you through step by step how you kind of apply for housing. Once you apply for housing, that does not mean that you have 100% committed to UNC Asheville. We hope that as you see what we have to offer, that does become clear to you that this is the place you want to be. But we also understand, I have a senior in high school right now myself. I also have a junior in high school. So I'm going through this process along with you all. And we understand as a family what kind of commitment this is. And it's a big step. And so we want you to go ahead and apply for housing. If you're have been admitted to UNC Asheville, that means you are at least considering it. So go ahead and apply for housing. But that does not mean that you're committing to anything. That does not mean you're locking yourself in to anything, any kind of contract or anything like that. That comes much later in the summer when you actually select a room. Is when at that point you're kind of locking yourself in or committing to us. But right now, apply for housing. There is no commitment with that. Once you do apply for housing, Lindsay, going a little bit further, once you do apply for housing, there's a couple of things that will trigger. One of the things that will happen is you'll get an email from us confirming that you did apply for housing. So if you think this happened today for a student, they emailed us, they thought they had applied for housing, but they never got an email confirmation. And they've been having some computer issues, some network issues at home. So they emailed us and said, can you just check and see if my application went through? And it actually hadn't. So rather than them sitting there and think they had applied for housing and waiting 2 months, they went ahead and were proactive, emailed us, and we said, no, it didn't go through. And so then they did it. So you'll get an email from us saying, congratulations, we're thrilled to hear you're interested in living on campus and coming to UNC Asheville. If you don't get that email, that means, like the student today, that there was some type of glitch or problem and it just didn't go through. And we can help with that. The second thing you'll get an email from a company called My College Roomie. My College Roomie is an app that we use, not an app, but a software that we use that works somewhat like social media, but it allows you to create a profile and then share that profile with who you choose to and view other profiles in hopes of matching up for roommates, suite mates, other people to live on the hall. Or what students told us last year, this is a newer system for us. What students told us last year is, I already knew who I was going to be living with, but I used My College Roomie to go ahead and kind of find my friend group and went ahead and started making friends with other people online, even though I already had my roommates. And that was kind of something that we weren't expecting. So it's a cool opportunity to do that as well. So you'll get those two things immediately after doing your housing application.
Awesome. That sounds like a much more fun process than, than when I had started, and super helpful. Yeah, sort of a way to get to know people before you're even here on campus. Awesome. And then kind of tied into that, do freshmen have to live, or sorry, do first years have to live with other first years? Can first years live with upperclassmen? That was another question we got in the Q&A.
So first year students do not have to live with other first year students. Sometimes, and people always ask me, Volley, you've been doing this a long time, which works better? It really, I've seen really great success stories where a first year student lived with a junior. I've also seen situations where that didn't work as well. I've seen great successes where two people came both as first year students from the same hometown. They already knew each other and it turned out great. I've seen other situations where they were best friends in high school and they came in and roomed together. And within the first couple of weeks, one of them was doing a room change. So it really depends, what you're looking for and all those things. But you do not, first year students do not have to live with first year students. Most of our first year students choose to do that, but that is not a requirement.
Thank you. And kind of sticking with the application process piece of things, can you just tell us real quick deadlines, and then is there a deposit involved in completing that housing application?
So deadlines first. May 1st is a date you're going to hear a lot as you're going through the process, and May 1st is when we would like to have housing applications kind of completed by. One of the reasons for that is I mentioned earlier, selection comes in June. And so you obviously can't select your housing if you haven't applied for housing yet. So having that May 1st deadline allows us to kind of see, these are the students who have said they're coming to UNC Asheville, but they still haven't applied for housing. We need to follow up with them. So we encourage you to get your housing in before your housing application in before May 1st. If you apply for housing before May 1st, so all of those students, those 400, 500, 600 students, whatever that group is, all of those students then are kind of randomly put into a pool. And that's how they select out of that group. It's randomized, but it's from that group that applied before May the 1st. If you wait and you apply for housing after May 1st, you're still going to be able to select. You're still going to have options, but you will not be selecting with those first groups of students. So if you apply today, if you apply next week, if you apply in March, then you will be among the first students to be able to select your housing. Now, as far as a true deadline, we have students every year that for whatever reason, they get admitted late, or they just really weren't sure. They were thinking about maybe going to somewhere else, and they just finally decided, no, UNC Asheville is where I feel most comfortable. That's where I want to be. And so it may be August, July, and they'll show up and they'll say, can I still live on campus? The answer is yes. We're committed. We see such value in our first year students living on campus, both nationally, regionally, and at UNC Asheville. We've seen such tremendous success academically, socially with students live on campus, that we're committed that to no matter when you apply for housing, we're going to have you on campus as a first year student. We're not going to turn you away. So you don't have to stress about that, about is there going to come a point in time where I'm out of luck? That won't happen at UNC Asheville. As far as the cost, that is all rolled into your tuition deposit and your housing deposit all at one time. Part of that initial money that you pay, the initial deposit, goes toward housing. And that's the only, you don't have to pay anything additional. That's all part of that. If you had your tuition deposit waived, then your housing deposit is also waived. We follow whatever the tuition happens with the tuition deposit. Housing does the same thing with the housing deposit. Lindsay, I think that was the two parts of that question. Okay.
It was, yep, answered it perfectly. And so, yeah, so just to clarify, depending on the information, if you completed a FAFSA and submitted that FAFSA to us, then that gave us additional information and that determined whether you had a deposit to submit or not. So yeah, just to restate that, if you did not have an enrollment deposit when you enroll, then you will not have a housing deposit as well. And I would like to apologize. AJ had a question in the Q&A that I accidentally clicked answer live. But just to clarify, if somebody is in that situation where they're pretty sure they applied, the website said it was completed, but they didn't get the confirmation email, should they just reach out to you, Vali?
Yeah, so our email is reslife@unca.edu. And that email comes to several of us in the office. So if I'm out or somebody else is out, somebody in our office will get that. A live human being will get that email and they'll respond to you within, a matter of minutes. So reslife@unca.edu is the best email address to use, and we'll get back to you quickly. At the end of tonight, I'll also give you my direct email address. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to talk to incoming students and their families. Yes, I did say and their families. I enjoy it. Like I said, I'm kind of a kindred spirit with you this year. So I'll be giving you my email address as well. But I do not get to be in my office as much as I used to be. So just bear with me. If you send me an email, I will not get back to you as quickly as other folks in our office will.
And hopefully this is just a quick question, but if a student is planning to apply for a single room instead of a double, the whole process basically just looks the same, right? They just select single instead of double. Everything else is.
Yeah, you don't apply necessarily for a single or a double. You just apply for housing. And then when you select, you will select to see, you'll look and see what's available. I want a single room on this hall in this building. Oh, there's not a single room on this hall, but there is a double room. Would I rather have a double room on this hall in this building, or would I rather take my chances and get a single somewhere else? All of those are the choices that students will be able to make.
Awesome. And can you talk a little bit about sort of the differences between a first year and a transfer that's coming in? So we've got someone here, and I apologize, Ollie. I'm not sure if you mean that if you're an early college student who's coming in at junior level, but it's your first year as a college student, there's a little bit of a difference there. But if we can talk about we'll just talk about the difference between a first year and a transfer student and what that would look like.
Yeah, and so to your point, dual enrolled students, early college students, from a housing standpoint, they're still a first year student. So with a first year student, primarily what that means is there are a couple of residence hall areas that first year students do not live in. One of those is the Village, which are primarily, there is a transfer community that lives in the Village, but then there's also other upper class students that live in the Village. And then our on campus apartments, which are known as the Woods, those are also only available for upper class students. And that would include transfers. So if you're coming in as a transfer, again, not an early college or a dual enrolled or a first year student, but a transfer from another college or university, you would have the option of living in the Woods or the Village in addition to the other residence halls I mentioned. As far as the process for applying for housing, it's all the same.
Awesome, thank you. So we did have a question about a student who is looking at possibly needing to be in Asheville a little earlier than what the move-in date is. Is there any flexibility there? And then maybe at the same time, we can also kind of talk about sort of between terms or the summer term, what that looks like.
So there's a lot of things out there depending on individual needs. You mentioned the summer term. We do have housing on campus in the summer. And we've actually started to see an increase in students who are going to be first year students coming in ahead of the game and going ahead and taking some classes in the summer, depending on how that works for individual students. But if that was the case, we would have housing available for incoming students in the summer. We do have a year-round housing option and that can be for first-year students. There's not a lot of space in that year-round community for first-year students, but we do have a few first-year students who live there. And that is for folks who want to live in Asheville at UNC Asheville year-round. So they don't plan to go home over winter break. They don't plan to go home over summer break. They're planning to be in Asheville year-round. So that is an option. We also have our pre-orientation programs that will begin earlier in August than when students move in. We'll have those programs in, I believe it's July or maybe June, but then we'll have orientation in August for students before move-in that you can come and start that process. As far as coming, if you're wanting to come like August 2nd or August 3rd, we really don't have that flexibility because we still have summer school, conferences, camps, and all of those things are going until the first week of August. But if you contact us, if you have a special need and you're needing to come in the day before move in or a couple of days before move in or things like that, we commonly work with students on those special needs, unique needs. We'd work with you individually.
Thank you. And just a quick reminder, I mean, that not related to that question in particular, but if you feel like your question wasn't fully answered, please let us know. We want to make sure that we're answering any questions that you've got. So we had a question about the cost breakdown for each housing option. So for that person, I'll go ahead and put the link in there, but you can find more information about that on our admission page at UNC Asheville, the tuition and fees section there. All right.
There's also Lindsay, there's also a FAQ page on the housing site, housing.unca.edu, that kind of has a breakdown of all the costs for the residence halls as well as other frequently asked questions. So you can check that out as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. When a student applies for a particular learning community, when do they find out about when they're accepted for that?
So that it varies from community to community. And we're actually in the process even now of potentially having one more residential learning community. We were contacted by some faculty earlier this week. And so we're in the process of talking about that with them. A residential learning community is where students, so maybe you're an atmospheric science student and you want to live with other atmospheric science students. And so we have a community that is made up of computer science and atmospheric science students called the Cloud. And so those students all live together. And if you apply for that, then there's a group made up of faculty and housing staff that kind of look at those applications together, and then they will be back in touch with you. So a lot of that depends on when you apply, but also it depends on kind of when that group gets together. And then they don't go ahead and meet too early because they want to take in as many applications as they can and make those decisions kind of somewhat rolling, but also kind of at one time. And so if you have questions about that, you can reach out to our office and we can put you in touch with a specific kind of coordinator for that RLC, and they can give you the specific time for that specific RLC. Good question.
Oh, that's a good question. Can you remind us when move-in day is? I think you mentioned it. We want to make sure we hear that.
I believe it's the 7th of August.
Okay.
It's a Wednesday. So I'm scrolling on my handy dandy calendar. Nope, I believe it's not the 7th. Let's see, it's the 9th, August the 9th is move in.
All right, thank you. And I do see some dining questions. We'll kind of try to group those together a little bit. We had some interesting questions submitted with the registration. So can you remind us a little bit about changing your mind and what the time frame is if you do decide that you're not happy with your room selection, A, and B, I've never seen this question before. What does the process look like for deciding which side of the room or which bed you get?
So I'll get to that question in a second. I have misspoke for the first time tonight, maybe not the last, but the academic calendar was actually pushed back this year. So move-in day is actually the 16th, August 16th this year.
August 16th.
It was the 9th, but now it's the 16th because the semester is starting a little bit later to be more in line with some of our other system schools. So move-in day, you can, if you wrote down the 9th, you can scratch that out. Or if you texted the 9th, you can delete, backspace, whatever, edit text. It's the 16th. August 16th is when move-in day is. Well, you asked a lot of questions there. So if you want to change, if you're not happy with your room, I think that was in there somewhere. Did you ask about that, Lindsay? If someone's not happy with their selection?
Correct.
So if someone's not happy with their selection, a couple things. One of the advantages of having a smaller on-campus population is we can be a lot more flexible than schools that have 8,000 or 10,000 students living on campus. We have 1,600 students living on campus. So it's pretty common that a student is 100% set. They're going to live in Mills Hall, and they get here and then they meet people for Founders Hall, or they have somebody from class that lives in another building and they want to do a room change. So we have a pretty flexible room change process. After the first week of classes, we have a period where anybody can change rooms for any reason. It doesn't even have to be a good reason. They can just change. It's an open room change period, and our office facilitates that. But even after that open room change period, there may be a situation where your roommate is snoring, or maybe you're snoring, or maybe your roommate, your schedule and your roommate's schedule or your suite mate's schedule just isn't compatible. You're a early morning riser. You like to get up early and go work out or go watch the sunrise or whatever. And there's somebody that's first class is not until noon and they like to sleep till 11 o'clock. And so you may decide that it's just not compatible. And so we have ways to facilitate those room changes throughout the year. So you're not committing or locking into anything long-term. So as far as which bed goes with which person, it really depends on, in most cases, who gets to the room first. Now, in some cases, I had a situation last year where I did a virtual tour with two roommates. One student was actually coming from Texas and the other student was local. And so I did a virtual tour with both of them, and they went ahead and decided before they got here, okay, you can have the bed on the left, I'll take the bed on the right. But most of the time students don't do it to that detail. They've just kind of decided that whoever gets there first will take the bed they want, and then the other person will take the other bed. You can also coordinate, hey, let's try to arrive on the 16th at 10 in the morning. Let's try to get there at the same time and kind of go into our room together. Students will do that as well sometimes. Was there something else in there, Lindsay? I'm sorry.
Nope, nailed it. All right. So let's take a stab at the substance-free question. Do we have a substance-free residence hall? Which one is that? And what does that look like when it comes to selecting?
So keep in mind that in North Carolina, all of our residence halls are smoke-free or tobacco-free. And that includes e-cigarettes, vaping, any of that. So that's the common in all of our residence halls. You can't smoke in the residence halls. And, you also can't consume alcohol if you're under the age of 21. But what substance free does is students who live in Southridge Hall, which is our wellness community, our substance free residence hall, students who live there have signed an agreement that even outside of the building, they're not going to participate in substance use. So they're not going to smoke a cigarette, go downtown Asheville and smoke a cigarette and then come back to their residence hall smelling like cigarette smoke or something like that. So that's the main difference. That the students have said that if they're going to live in Southridge, they're not going to participate in any substance use they would bring back to the building. They're not going to, chew tobacco or anything like that.
Thank you. And I'm typing a couple questions or answers in the chat related to the pre-orientation trips. So just to clarify, we do have 3 trips planned for this summer. We've got one July 9th through 14th, one July 16th through 21st, and then one August 12th through 16th. And Vali, if I understand correctly, if they're doing that third one, they would technically be moving in a little bit early at August 12th for the pre-orientation program.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. Great. All right. And Olivia, I'll go ahead and just put that in writing for you as well. Oh, great. We got a question about emotional support animals. Can we talk a little bit about how housing works with the Office of Academic Accessibility?
So emotional support animals, or ESAs, as the shortened version is known for them. So we work really closely with the Office of Academic Accessibility. That's where the process would start. So if a student contacts us and they say, I have an emotional support animal that's a dog, or I have a service animal that's a dog, in either case, we're going to refer you to the Office of Academic Accessibility to start that process. We do not need to know the reason. It's actually illegal for us to know the reason, or not for us to know, but for us to ask. So we don't ask, we don't get into the details of that. All of that is handled through the Office of Academic Accessibility. And then they reach out to us, Tara in our office, our Associate Director of Housing, they reach out to Tara and they say, Lindsay's coming in, and Lindsay is going to be bringing her bulldog with her named Rocky as her emotional support animal. And we just, the Office of Academic Accessibility lets us know that. And then that's pretty much the way that process works. Then what we do is we reach out to Lindsay and we say, Lindsay, we've heard that you're bringing Rocky, your bulldog, with you as your emotional support animal. Before Rocky gets here, you just need to schedule a meeting with your area director so y'all can talk about kind of what the guidelines are for having an emotional support animal in the residence hall. And they can tell you proper ways of disposing of dog waste and answer any questions you have about fire alarms and things like that, that commonly students have related to emotional support animals.
And what happens if, I apologize, I was answering a question. I don't think that you answered this piece. If the roommate is not happy with the animal living near them, is there a way to avoid that so
Yes.
that it doesn't become a, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there should be a way to avoid that. So there, on the application, one of the questions is, how do you feel about living with an emotional support animal, or how do you feel about living with an animal? If you answer that question that you're okay living with an animal, then you have said that you're okay living with an animal. If you're not okay living with an emotional support animal or with any animal, that is fine. Please put that on your application, because students will see that when they're selecting, and they will know, Lindsay will know that she's bringing Rocky, her bulldog, but she will see that this one person that Lindsay was thinking of rooming with said they have an allergy or whatever, and they're just not okay living with an animal. So that's going to let Lindsay know, I need to look somewhere else. And then Lindsay's going to see somebody else who could be a potential roommate. They said they're fine living with an animal. So there you go. In the event that someone says that they are okay living with an animal, and then they get here and they decide they're not, or vice versa, we work with students in those situations, but it does make it more complicated on the back end. So really, if you're not okay living with an animal, that is perfectly fine. Just make sure and put that on the application.
Thank you. Non-essential pets. Well, I mean, all pets are essential, right? But if we've just got somebody that just wants to bring a pet, are there pets that are allowed and pets that aren't, or are they none of them allowed?
So, all pets are essential. I have a rabbit, 2 dogs, and 14 chickens. So all animals are essential, right? But so currently, that's an important word. Currently, in our residence halls. The only animals that are permitted outside of ESAs, emotional support animals, or service animals, the only other animals that are permitted are fish in a 10-gallon or less aquarium tank. Those are the only animals that are permitted currently. There are a lot of conversations that we're having right now that in the near future that may adjust a little bit, but for this Q&A right now, that's where we're at.
Thank you. Let's talk a little about gender inclusive housing. Is that something that we offer? Is it a case-by-case basis?
It is a case-by-case basis. There's a lot of individual needs, individual requests, individual necessities, individual preferences, and every student is very different. Again, that's part of having choice, which I mentioned earlier, is also not putting any group of students or all students in any boxes and saying that this is what we're going to do, or this is what gender inclusive housing means at UNC Asheville. So everything is handled on a case-by-case basis. And so again, if you have specific questions, individual questions, Tara Hopkins is the person in our office who has had conversations with individuals, students and families for years about gender identity and gender inclusive housing and all of those types of questions. So if you reach out to our office, Tara can get back in touch with you and talk with you individually about that.
Thank you. Let's talk showers and bathrooms. Now, I started my freshman year at a different campus before I transferred to UNC Asheville my sophomore year. At that campus, I shared a bathroom with an entire hall. Is that going to happen at UNC Asheville?
Great segue, Lindsay. Yes, and transferring to UNC Asheville was one of the best decisions you ever made, right? So
no, but seriously, it was.
And for us too. So yes, when I was in undergrad, I also shared a bathroom with my 18 closest friends, as I like to say. And thankfully at UNC Asheville, we do not have hall bathrooms. We do not have community bathrooms. All of our residence halls, and I mean all, 100% of our residence halls are suite style residence halls. So that means that at most, you're going to be sharing a bathroom with 3 other students at most. Many schools, most schools have some type of suite style arrangement, but we're one of the very, very few schools that can say 100% of our housing is suite style and you will never share a bathroom with an entire hall. That is a big deal today for students, as far as privacy, as far as especially coming through the pandemic and out of the pandemic and all of the hygiene issues and all of those. So it is a big deal and something that we are very happy to be able to say that we have the community, that we don't have community bathrooms and we just have the suite style bathrooms.
You remember like shower flip-flops? Did you like shower shoes?
I still think you should wear shower
caddy.
Yeah, I think there's times I think I should wear shower. Of course, I have 4 kids, so there's times I think I should wear shower flip-flops in my own house. But hey, I think I saw, if I'm right, I think UNC Asheville is up at the half by 6. If I saw that right.
Yeah. Awesome. So,
yeah.
Right.
Big hopefully UNC Asheville game on ESPN tonight. So sorry, we're trying to do 2 things at once. Sorry.
ESPNU, if you want to check it out after you're off of here. Hopefully you're not a Radford fan. Kitchen appliances. I know there's a pretty comprehensive list on the housing website, but just real quick, can people bring air fryers? And yeah, any hot plates, things like that?
So the rule of thumb that I always tell people is if there's anything that has a hot surface, a griddle, a grill, a hot plate, anything that has a surface that is hot, that a piece of paper or a pillowcase or a curtain or anything could fall on and catch on fire, those are not permitted. If it's things that's enclosed, things that are kind of self-enclosed, then those are fine. Again, there is a pretty comprehensive list, but every year people are coming out with new inventions and new things and all of that. So you're always welcome to reach out to us, and we can kind of help elaborate on some of those. But the rule of thumb is, if it's a hot plate, if it's something that could just be hot to the touch and anything could fall on it and catch on fire, those are not permitted by the North Carolina, the Office of State Fire Marshal, which we have to follow their guidelines because we're a state institution.
Great, thank you. We did get a follow-up question on the bathrooms. So to be clear, because they are suite style, cleaning the bathrooms is whose responsibility?
Lindsay will come to your bathroom and no.
I actually do love cleaning.
Yeah. So two things to that. The first answer, the standard answer is, we do not, once students move in, we do not go into the suite to clean. That's the standard answer. Everything behind the suite door, that's the student's private living area. And so the room, the bathroom, the common area or living room, if they have one, all of that is the student's area to maintain and to clean. However, many students, including my senior, when they get to college, they're going to have a very hard time, especially at the beginning, figuring out how to get soap scum off their shower or get mildew off their shower curtain. It's going to be a new thing for some students. So our housekeeping staff, our housing team, we have our own housekeeping staff that are student affairs staff, just like I am. And they will, especially early in the year, they enjoy going into the suites and showing students kind of tricks and tips on how to clean, how to get things clean quickly and easily. And so students will, at the beginning, they can ask, they can request, hey, can you send a housekeeper to help us clean our shower curtain, and show us how to do that? And then we'll take care of it after that. And so that is something that we do every year for a lot of students. I'm sure it's not all students, but it's a lot of students.
I didn't know that, actually. That's really cool. So can we go back real quick? Somebody asked the woods. That is not for freshmen. Is that correct? Or first years? Sorry.
Yes, it's not the woods, unless the only caveat to that is if they're a student who is going to be in the year-round community. If they sign up for year-round, if they apply for year-round housing, then they can live in the woods because that's where that community is. But for most 99% of first-year students, they are not able to live in the woods. The woods are our upper class kind of, they're an apartment community, and it kind of gives you something to look forward to for year 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, however long you end up at UNC Asheville.
Awesome. Laundry. What does that look like? Is it free? Does every residence hall have laundry? I love talking about laundry. I love talking about it in person because I love to see the students and their parents' reactions, but I'll have to kind of talk about it virtually and I'll have to imagine their reactions. So I tell students that laundry is free, and I tell parents and families that laundry is included in the housing cost. So both of those things are true. There is no additional charge for laundry. You don't have to worry about swiping a card or getting coins or anything like that. It is part of your housing costs. And so because of that, we've actually seen students do laundry more often. Students don't overfill the machines, because they're not waiting until they save up that 75 cents to do a load of laundry or whatever. So laundry's included. But one of the really cool things that we have is we have Laundry View, which gives you the ability through a website to see when washers and dryers in your residence hall are available. So if you're in Founders Hall on the 7th floor and the laundry room's on the 1st floor, before you haul a load of clothes down, you can pull up the Founders laundry room. You can see what machines are available. And then it'll also tell you right now there's no machines available, but this machine number 2 over here only has 8 minutes left. And so you know that you can go on down and be kind of next in line for that machine. You can also, once you put your laundry in the machine,
you can set it up to send you a text or an email alert when your laundry's done, which is a great reminder for all of us, myself included, because I put laundry in the washing machine and always forget to go put it in the dryer when it needs to be, or I put it in the dryer and forget to come take it out. So those are really cool things. Several years ago at a admitted student day, a parent said, a student asked me if we had a way that the laundry would move automatically from the washer to the dryer. And I said, no, but if you'll invent that while you're here, your parents will be very glad they sent you to UNC Asheville.
Agreed. A couple other questions about things you can have in your room. Somebody asked about small heaters, humidifiers, and candles or incense.
Yes, yes, and no.
Okay.
No, sorry. So yes to, so the space heater is a little tricky because there are some, again, it can have a surface that is hot to the touch. Most space heaters, almost all space heaters you're going to buy today are fine. But if you have a really old space heater from like the 1990s, it's probably not going to work. They also have to have the automatic shut off. So if they get tipped over, they'll cut off automatically. Again, 99.9% of space heaters you're going to buy today have those. But that we do have to look at those. If you bring a space heater, we have to confirm that they're okay. Humidifiers or dehumidifiers, they're okay as long as they don't overload the outlets and trip breakers. They're permitted. But just like anything else, if we get calls the first week 3 or 4 times that something in your room is constantly tripping a breaker, we may tell you that is just not going to work. So that's something that you just kind of have to know coming in. Candles, incense, anything like that is not permitted. Again, that's the Office of State Fire Marshal in the state of North Carolina. Candles, even to this day, continue to be the #1 cause of fires in residence halls, even here in 2023. And so candles and incense are still not something you can have in the residence halls.
Okay. Thank you. And for the sake of time, I know we've got a couple more housing questions, but I do want to make sure that we touch on parking and dining as well. So real quick, are there limited spaces for parking for first-year students? And do you remember off the top of your head how much it costs?
So the cost is $100 a semester for parking on campus, or $200 a year. A caveat, that's what it was this year. I'm not the parking guy. I don't know if they have any plans for it to go up. I haven't heard about that, but let me just say that it was $200 this year for students. If it does go up, I can't imagine it going up very much at all. I think it's actually been $200 for several years, so it's probably not going up, but just a caveat. There are resident student lots all over the residential corridor near residence halls. Founders Hall has a residential lot at it. The Woods has a residential lot. The Ridges and Ponder have residential lots. The Village has residential lot at it. So there's residence hall lots kind of scattered throughout. So no matter where you live, you don't have a long walk to your vehicle.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think it was, the farthest walk was like 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay, can we talk just a couple basics about meal plan? Kind of what the selection looks like. And then there was a question about declining balance and what that means.
So we are in the process. Our students, we've been doing a lot of focus groups this semester, and our students have given us a lot of feedback. And when I say us, student affairs and my dining colleagues, that our meal plans as we have them right now are too complicated and a little hard sometimes to figure out. And so we are in the process of completely redoing all of our meal plans and the meal plan structure right now. That the final rollout of that will happen later this month or early March. But right now the answer is still to be determined. But what the meal plans will look like is basically you'll have a certain amount of meals, swipes, meal card swipes, and then a certain amount of declining balance each semester. We have our main dining hall on campus, which is Brown Hall. That's the main dining hall. And then we have retail outlets in the library, a couple in our student union, and then in Ponder Hall. And you can use the meal swipes either in the main dining hall or in any of those retail outlets with what's called a meal equivalency. So if I go and get a turkey burger and fries and a drink in Highsmith for lunch, I can use a meal equivalency for that. If I go get a pizza and a bag of chips and a drink over in the Down Under in Ponder Hall, I can use a meal equivalency for that, which counts as one of my meals. So if I had, hypothetically, let's say I had 20 meals a week was my plan, any of those would count as a meal. And at the end of the week, it resets, and then I have 20 meals to use again. I also have declining balance. And so my meal plan may come with $200 declining balance, or $600 declining balance, or $400 declining balance. So if I just want to go get a coffee from Roasted in the morning, or I just want to go get a bagel, or I just want to go over to the Down Under and just get a sweet tea and a bag of popcorn or something like that, rather than using a meal equivalency for that, I just use my declining balance. And so it works just kind of like a debit card or a credit card. You can always add more declining balance to your plan throughout the year. So if my plan has $200 declining balance, and if my son has $200 declining balance and he calls me and he says, Dad, I'm really liking the declining balance thing. That's more beneficial for me. Can you add another $50 to my card? Well, first I'm going to say, get a job. No, I wouldn't say that, because going to school would probably be his job. But I would say, yes, I'll put $50 more on your card, use it wisely. And then when he calls me the next day and says he blew through that $50, then we would have another conversation. But so that's kind of, you will select your meal plan. You will have a time period to change your meal plan. Again, choice. I can't say that enough. We try to give you as much choice, as much flexibility as we can. So if you really think that you're going to want the 40 meal a week, or excuse me, the 21 meal a week and the $400 declining balance plan, and then after eating the first couple of days, you just say, I'm never going to eat breakfast in Brown Hall. I'm never going to get up for breakfast, so I can cut back to the 15 meal a week plan. Then you can do that. You can change your meal plan. That you have a period from the summer until the third day of class to change your meal plan. And then after that, you're kind of locked in. And I know that's vague. I wish I had firm answers on what the meal plans were going to be. The great thing is we're able to change things for our students. Our students brought us kind of, hey, can you look at changing the meal plans? And our dining partners are doing that. The bad news is for you all, I don't have the final answers right now.
And yes, great question. It is the same card that is used for declining balance and meal plan. All of that is going to be on your campus ID card, your student ID, which is called your One Card. And I would absolutely like to just second that last point that you made. I mean, one of the hallmarks of UNC Asheville, and one of the reasons why I love this place so much is our ability and willingness to accept feedback from students and adjust. And so, we have worked really hard this year to listen to students, to hear what their thoughts are on what those meal plans look like and how they could be improved. And so that is the genuine work that is happening right now. And I'm really proud of that. Do we have fast food restaurants on campus? Is it just the dining hall? What are those options?
So the retail locations we have on campus, we do have, occasionally we'll have pop-ups from fast food locations. One of the awesome things we have is Food Truck Fridays, where we have, for those of you who aren't local, Asheville is a foodie's paradise. I read something recently that we were ranked in the top 10 in the country for something about food. Asheville is is just a foodie's paradise. And so we have a lot of local food trucks that the university have partnerships with, and one of those will come every Friday and set up in front of Brown Hall, and that's an option for students. We also have in our Highsmith Student Center, in addition to the coffee shop, there is a grill, which is not a name brand grill, but it is a grill that you can get all your comfort foods, chicken tenders and burgers and turkey burgers and fries and chili, tater tots and burritos and tacos and quesadillas and all of that stuff. We have a pizza concept. We have a smoothie lab up at the library. So we do have different options, again, that kind of fit every style, every lifestyle. But Brown, today in Brown, I had Jamaican jerk chicken, sauteed kale, and barbecued shrimp and grits was what I had for lunch today. It gives you an opportunity to try things maybe that are new. I don't know if before I worked at UNC Asheville, if I'd ever had kale, but I love their sauteed kale. I love it. And so yes, and you can also go in there and get pizza and get a bowl of cereal and go fix you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or get you a turkey wrap. You can do all of that stuff too, but it's also a great opportunity to try new things. And they're great at really kind of pushing the envelope with new menu items and new things to try.
And I love that you can check to see what the menu is for that day before you walk all the way down the 10 minutes away, maybe to the dining hall. I think is really neat. I'm gonna pause this here real quick. There might be another question or two that comes in, but before people hop off, I know that we're at our time. I did want to make sure that everyone here knows about our admitted student experience days that we have every Monday. So those are little mini small group days where students who have been admitted can come and do kind of more of a personalized tour and Q&A option, more curated experience there. So this spring on Mondays, we'll be doing that. Check out the information on our admissions website, or just reach out to your counselor and ask them about what's going on. We also have...
I'm sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
That's okay. We also have admitted student days on 2 Saturdays this spring. There's going to be one on March 25th and one on Saturday, April 22nd. So definitely come to those if you're able to, and if you're not able to do those weekday Monday night ones. But lots of opportunities to get on campus, to get more questions answered, and we would love to see you there. Good question about food. So that being said, of course, completely understand if people need to hop off. It looks like we've got one or two more questions. Bali, do you have a minute to stick around? Is that all right?
I have a minute. Lindsay, I was also going to say, if I don't have access, I don't think, to the chat, if someone could post my email address, my direct email address in the chat, it's just vbarnwell with one L. So VBARNWEL at unca.edu. And so students and families, you're welcome to make a note of that. And if I can help you directly, please reach out to me directly. And in some cases, like I say, it may be a little bit before I get back to you, but I will get back to you.
Thank you. And yeah, so we'll be sure. So we've got the email for everybody that registered for this event. So we will follow up with an email to y'all with that contact information. I don't think that they're able to see the chat, but I'll go ahead and just answer real quick because we've got a question about gluten-free food as well. Everything in Brown is very well labeled. And we, again, as part of the foodie culture in Asheville, we are very respectful and understanding of people's different dietary restrictions. So things, like allergies and gluten-free, you should be able to tell very easily what you're eating and what you aren't eating. But that being said, we also have a nutritionist that works on campus that students can meet with one-on-one to talk about what the options are, to talk about, maybe which areas on campus might have more options for you. That person is very happy to work directly with people. Our entire dining staff is very accommodating and is happy to speak with students about those things. Lots of vegan, vegetarian options as well, all kinds of cool stuff. All right. Well, we're a couple minutes over, but thank you so much, Volley. This was a lot of fun. We answered a ton of questions. Always get some cool new ones that are unexpected, so that's always fun. And I just really appreciate everyone who joined us today. Again, we will follow up with an email with contact info. If you have questions that were not answered, please reach out. That is why we are here. We want to make sure that you feel as good as possible about making that decision to enroll at UNC Asheville.
Thank you, Lindsay. You've been a great host, and thanks everybody for joining us. I look forward to seeing you on campus soon, and definitely in August. And go Bulldogs! Hey, we're up 11 now.
Hey, awesome. Turn on ESPNU when you leave. Bye, everyone.